I hate unexpected phone calls. I don't like Mondays. I am usually in an uplifted mood after the weekend, and the boring routine of paperwork seems so dull. My wife Kate called during lunch to see when I would be home. She was out shopping and wanted to be home when I arrived. Then the phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. As I was putting the finishing touches on the client database, I tried to put the handset on the lever and repeat the last few keystrokes. "Good afternoon, Dave Marshall." No answer, just a lot of background noise and a few muffled voices. "Good afternoon, Dave Marshall." Still nothing. I almost hung up, thinking it was just kids making nuisance calls. Then I realized it was my wife Kate. Kate often accidentally redials on her phone. I wouldn't mind $1 for each time she did it. Realizing who it was, I decided to eavesdrop on her shopping trip. My birthday was just around the corner, and I could get some idea of what she wanted to get me. It turned out to be one of my worst decisions that day. "Don't worry, my husband is at work, and I don't have to be home until 5 p.m. We have 2 hours. That's really nice." "Don't stop," that was Kate's voice. Of course it wasn't a shopping trip. The rustling of clothes and moans continued for a few minutes. How long? I don't know. I was in shock. I knew it was a guy by the grunts he was making in response to what Kate was doing to him. Yes, oh yes. Oh, I strained to hear what was going on. One part of me couldn't believe it. There had to be a simple explanation. The other logical part of my brain was telling me it was true that she was cheating on me. I didn't recognize the male voice, so I was pretty sure it wasn't one of our friends. So who was it? Why was she cheating on me on us? Kate's burst of giggles brought me back to the phone ringing. "Dude, you're the best. My wife can't keep up with you." "Yeah, that's right. Don't stop." A louder, unusual grunt on the phone brought my attention back to what was happening there. Kate murmured, "Not yet. I want to continue." The next 5 minutes were full of licking and satisfied moans. The sound of her panting had a strong effect on me. I wanted to reach for the phone and strangle them both. My God, she wasn't using any protection. She was letting him have himself without a rubber. As the frantic sounds of my wife and lover's copulation spread through the phone lines, I finally lost control. I couldn't take it anymore and threw the phone against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 different pieces that scattered like confetti across the furniture and across the floor. For the next hour, I sat there in abject despair, tears streaming down my cheeks. I wrapped my arms around my head and wept for what I had lost. How could she have done this? She never said she wasn't happy with our lives. How long had she been doing this? Was I getting sloppy seconds, and from whom? My marriage was falling apart. She wanted someone else. I, for one, could never share her. I loved her too much for that. I would never be a cuckold. I felt humiliated as a man and as a lover. Her comments about his size made me feel inferior, and it made me even angrier. I decided I would go home, talk to her about it, then pack my bag and leave. Thank goodness we didn't have children. We hadn't been married long enough to have a lot of stuff, so it wasn't hard for me to pack. The house was rented, and the furniture was mostly hers. My heart was broken at what I had lost, but I knew I had to be strong to confront it. I gathered my wits, then cleared my desk, getting ready to leave. Just as I was packing my briefcase, there was a knock and my secretary walked in. She stopped and stared at me with my red, puffy eyes. After looking around the room, her gaze stopped on the broken phone. Worry and concern flashed across her face before she continued. What she had come to do, Dave? Are you okay? Can I get you anything? Shaking my head, I whispered, No, I'm fine. I'm leaving a little early today. I have some private matters to take care of. Okay, before you go, talk to your wife on the phone in my office. She couldn't get through on your private line. She glanced again at the broken phone scattered in tiny pieces across the red carpet. My wife? I don't want to talk to her. My voice went up 2 levels as my anger rose to the surface. Tell her I'll see her later. The poor woman looked like she had swallowed something nasty while mulling over my angry response. I'm sorry, she said. You would, but I have to tell her it's urgent and that if you don't answer the phone, Don't bother coming home. This cheating demanded that I talk to her. Well, I will, but on my terms. I would soon let her know that she would be the one on her ear, not me. Rushing past the receptionist, I grabbed her phone and pressed the flashing red button on line 2. What the hell is this, Dave? Just calm down and listen, and I'll explain everything. My anger was uncontrollable, but I figured I'd give her enough rope to hang herself, and then let her know I heard everything. Okay, explain. Oh, you did? Now I know you're mad, but you hung up on me a little sooner than I thought. I thought you were going to try to tape what I was doing so you could let me hear it later. Well, never mind. I cut her off. Did you know I was listening? You did? It was knowing I could hear what was going on. Well, of course I knew. After all, I dialed the number and waited for you to answer before we started. Now I know this is confusing, so let me set the record straight. First, I know about your little affair with Debbie, and I know it's over. It was just so you knew that both could play. Now you understand the pain I felt when I found out. I was stunned. She knew about me and Debbie. How could she? It had only lasted a month, 5 secret meetings. The guilt was too great, so I ended it. How could she know about it? I didn't tell anyone. Debbie? That it was all her doing. Debbie was upset that I broke up with her. Did she tell Kate? It was the only plausible answer I could come up with. With Dave, Dave, are you here? Yeah, I'm here. My anger subsided a little, and my voice was almost back to normal. Who was that guy you slept with? How could you possibly know about Debbie? Why didn't you just tell me out of order? First, Debbie was a little pissed off that you dumped her, so she called me with all the racy details. I'm sure she exaggerated a bit, but it was enough that I knew you were having an affair. Why didn't I tell you? Well, I thought the way I chose was more weighty. I wanted you to know that pain can be two-sided. Kate paused for a moment before continuing. As for who he was, you'll never know. That's part of your punishment. Oh, and you won't find out if I really cheated, and, if so, who it was with. What do you mean, really cheated? I heard you too. I heard you telling him how much better he was than me. Well, yeah, you did hear some things, but did it really happen, or did I just play it up to make it seem like I did? Sure, there was a guy there, but did I let him, me, or was it all an act? You have to ask yourself if you think I would really cheat on you, just like I had to ask myself about you. Again, this is part of the punishment. I'll never tell you what really happened. You'll just have to deal with it, just like I have to deal with what you did. I didn't know what to say. I knew I had heard everything. I know it was painful for her to admit that she had indeed slept with a bastard, but it gave me the closure I needed. She didn't tell me who it was, only that I didn't know him, and he wasn't dating me. Dave, if I told you who it was, I know you'd go looking for him. You're damn right. I'm gonna go looking for that, and when I find him, he's gonna regret ever getting laid. The main thing that surprised me was how guilty Kate felt about her revenge and how much she had hurt me. That, more than anything else, convinced me that we would eventually get over this hurdle. We did move on and stayed together, eventually returning to a more normal marriage. These days, I am more attentive to Kate, and we spend more time together. She says it's because I don't trust her, but we both know it's because we don't want to risk losing each other. I had one ace up my sleeve that Kate didn't know about. She told me that I didn't know him, and that he had never met me. That gave me my first clue as to who this could be. It had to be someone who knew Kate was married and knew about me, but hadn't met me. I knew all her friends, and she knew mine, so it wasn't one of them. My next investigation led me to her workplace. It was probably someone she worked with. I had a business acquaintance who worked at the same firm as Kate, a guy I had helped a few times. He owed me, so I asked him to see if he could discreetly pick up any gossip about her and the other guy. 2 weeks later, he came back with an answer. George, one of the sales reps, had a reputation as a ladies' man, and he hung around Kate. Finally, she yelled something at him about leaving her alone and that it would never happen again. She had done something stupid. But she wanted to save her marriage, not have an affair. You know, Dave, if it were anyone else, I probably wouldn't tell you, but this really pisses me off. He's ruined some good marriages and doesn't give about the people he hurts. I knew that if I did anything, it would come back to me, and Kate would never forgive both himself and me, so I huffed for a long time. All this time, I had been keeping a close eye on them and waiting for my chance. I took the opportunity to get a little revenge on Debbie, an email to her husband describing the mole she had on her left nipple, and an embellished account of our tumultuous lovemaking, guaranteed that she would regret her phone call to Kate. Funny how she never thought about the consequences of her actions, the fact that she had as much to lose as I did. Good things come to those who wait, and things couldn't have worked out better. To make my revenge even sweeter, it was just about the 3rd anniversary of the phone call when it finally happened. As I waited, hidden by the hibiscus bushes that grew along on the driveway to the gorgeous 2-story house, it was dark and cold. It was the home of his latest mistress and her unsuspecting husband. He was having an affair with the wife of one of his firm's partners, and that made him vulnerable. I knew I was perfectly safe. He'd never met me, plus I wore a balaclava to hide my face. The cold penetrated me. To distract myself, I ran the plan through my head again. Wait until he passed me on the way to his car, parked on the street. Quick. Get out and grab him by the shoulder, turn him around, then punch him once in the stomach and once more in the face. After that, it would depend on his reaction. I fumbled for a piece of crumpled paper in my jacket pocket. It reassured me that everything was okay. Anger never really left me, and just thinking about that reignited that anger. At least it warmed me, chasing away the cold. The partner was in a late meeting, and when he got home, he found George beaten, bleeding, and tied up in the driveway. A printed note pinned to his shirt told of George's affair with his wife and several other women, all the affairs the bastard had had over the last year, all of them named. I stuffed all the clothes and shoes I wore into 5 different dumpsters across town. George found himself out of a job. The police had plenty of suspects among the husbands of other women, but they didn't get to me. It got into the daily papers with pictures of him being put into an ambulance. You can't keep something like that a secret. And with all the publicity, his wife found out all about it and divorced him. Kate kept quiet all week, but finally told me about what had happened to George. I asked her if he was the guy she'd gotten involved with, and she finally admitted that he was. Serves the bastard right. Too bad it wasn't me. Well, I'm glad it wasn't you. I'd hate to lose you. Now that we finally worked things out, Kate curled up next to me and kissed me gently on the lips. I smiled. One part of the smile was meant for her, the other part for the secret I was keeping. I screwed up big time, and I paid for it. I'd finally paid it off. Now I could move on with my life. What do you make of this? Please let me know in the comments below. We appreciate your presence today. Subscribe to our channel to ensure your next chef remains loyal. Stay tuned for the next story. It's nothing compared to what's coming. However, if you're under 18, I strongly advise against listening to the following tale.